Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Hayden with the Hill Pursuit Podcast. Welcome in. This is episode 99 of the show, meaning we are one episode away from triple digits, from episode 100. So, real quick, little intro here. Today's episode is a Pittsburgh Marathon preview. Today's Saturday morning. This is a car cast. I'm actively driving into the city right now. And I'll be running the full marathon tomorrow. So less than 24 hours away, I'll be running the full marathon. A little bit of a preview, kind of expectations, recent training stuff, a little bit of everything today, but not super long. One thing I do want to say and remind you of quickly is for the 100th podcast episode, which at this point sounds like it will likely be the Pittsburgh Marathon recap episode, but embedded into that episode will be an incentive for either new athletes or current athletes. So you're going to want to make sure that if you're listening to this one, make sure you like, subscribe, do all that stuff with your podcast wherever you listen, because the 100th episode will have some information regarding that incentive and regarding that new initiative that we're going to be rolling out kind of in celebration of 100 episodes of the podcast. So make sure that you continue to follow along and listen. Again, likely will be the Pittsburgh Marathon recap episode, our next episode, in a couple days, I would imagine. So anyways, if you've been following along for a while, and I know some of you have been, we really, really appreciate the support. We're on all the socials, just all at Hill Pursuit, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X. We're on LinkedIn as well. So find us on all those things, subscribe. If you want to ever reach out to me directly for coaching information, advice, questions about something you're hearing in a podcast or reading somewhere, I always welcome those conversations. You can just reach out to me directly at hillpursuit@gmail.com. The website also is always active, hillpursuit.com. You can find nutrition, coaching, podcast information, any swag related to in-season or off-season training gear related to Hill Pursuit. So check out all the things at the website, hillpursuit.com. And you'll get everything you need. You'll get all your questions answered in terms of seeing all the info, all the services that we offer, things like that. So without further ado, this is episode 99, one away from 100, episode 99, the Pittsburgh Marathon preview. Enjoy the show. Okay, here we are, the 99th episode of the Hill Pursuit Podcast. This is a special one. It's a special one for a couple reasons. First and foremost, we're one episode away from 100. One episode away from triple digits, which is really exciting. Having started the podcast a couple of years ago, we'll go into the specifics and a little bit of the history of the show in our next episode. But what's also exciting is we're definitely going to have an incentive related to that 100th episode for both current athletes and future athletes, for all the things, incentive for endurance sport, strength and conditioning. So make sure that you listen, follow along and listen to that 100th episode for that information, because there will be limited slots available, purposes of and the nature of how coaching works. This won't be like an unlimited slot kind of offering. So just follow along. It'll be in the next episode, which again, I would assume will be the Pittsburgh Marathon recap episode, because today we'll be talking about the Pittsburgh Marathon, 26.2 miles, well, roughly 26.35-ish miles. And I say that because the couple times that I've run this race, it's always been about 0.15 to 0.2 longer in terms of the length of the course, which is not uncommon, I guess. Nobody runs a perfectly straight line, and 26.3 is pretty darn close to 26.2. But anyways, we're running a full marathon tomorrow morning. Right now it's 11 a.m. This is a car cast. I'm driving into the city of Pittsburgh right now. I got about a half hour left, so this isn't going to be a crazy long podcast due to the complexity of city driving once we get there. But I do want to just touch on what's been going on with training and kind of my expectations heading into tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. What's also really cool about tomorrow is I'm sharing a hotel room with one of my best friends from high school that I haven't seen since my wedding. Now, we talk from time to time, just like old friends always do, right? But we haven't seen each other in forever. And he's coming out to run the half marathon. So we're sharing a hotel room together, which is going to be a lot of fun also, and kind of catch up. So that's also really exciting. But so training lately. Training's been going pretty well. About a month ago, I wrapped up a little bit over a month ago, 5 weeks maybe. I finished the Rabid Raccoon 100K trail race, which came out to roughly 66 miles, 9,000-ish feet of elevation, 21 hours. And I had the time of my life, to be honest. I really, really enjoyed it. And you can listen to that recap in the most recent podcast episode, which I believe is just episode 98. But that was just such a ton of fun. Of course, the training leading up to that is a lot of really low and slow, long duration stuff, which is okay. Not the most fun training. The racing, it was just the time of my life. I really, really enjoyed it. But all that being said, you finish a race like that, you recover, you gain a lot of fitness just from that one acute event. I call it acute, right? 21 consecutive hours of racing, aggressive hiking, walking, jogging, running. You get a lot of fitness from that. So if you're smart with your recovery, the next few weeks, not just a couple days as you're recovering from an ultra marathon, the next few weeks of recovery, you're going to gain some serious fitness. And I think that's what happened for me. I felt really, really strong when I started incorporating some speed and tempo work back into my daily routine. What you neglect with ultramarathon training is speed, right? You might do some of it from time to time, and some people might say the same when you're training for a marathon. You neglect speed from time to time. And at least if you're training intelligently, you should always be doing some sort of speed, whether it's, on the track, on the bike, in the water. Anaerobic training is a form of, speed or power, I guess. So any type of weightlifting or resistance training, everybody needs to be doing this stuff, but it's to what degree, frequency, intensity, volume, where does it come in? So naturally, my first ultramarathon, I did very little speed work, very little tempo work. I started putting it back in, 2 weeks, 3 weeks post 100K, which is really only 2 or 3 weeks ago from today. I started feeling pretty strong. Really, really pleased with how some of my tempo sessions have been. So some of my best sessions have been long, slow distance runs, but not upwards of 20 miles, which is not, mentally I haven't run that long since the 100K, which I'm okay with, but is somewhat concerning. But at the same time, my long, slow distance, anywhere between 10 and 15 miles, my heart rate has been way less. Relatively speaking, the intensity that I'm working at for those 10 to 15 miles at my long, slow distance pace, which has not changed, is way less, which means my aerobic base is improving. I use that as a metric very frequently in terms of, hey, I ran 12 miles at a 10-minute pace, or I ran 16 miles at a 10-minute pace. What was the average heart rate? What was the heart rate response? And I use that as a metric to see, okay, if that's my pace for the block for my long runs, if my long runs are all 10-minute pace or 10:10 or 9:45, whatever. So for this current block, my long runs are 10. 10 minutes. Now that, again, I could have a whole other podcast on that. Each training block, you should manipulate like where your intensity lies for race pace, and then the race pace is going to dictate where your long, slow distance pace falls in. So, and I'll get to that, but long way of saying my long, slow distance pace was unchanged, and I'm very strict in adhering to it as best as I can. So roughly 10-minute miles. And my heart rate's been dropping for those runs. So that's a good indication that my base level of aerobic fitness is improving, which is good. But that being said, my tempo work, for me, I put my tempo work depending on the length of the tempo run. So small, moderate, long tempo intervals. So like a small tempo interval might be like 6 miles. A moderate might be 8 or 9 miles. A long tempo might be somewhere between like 12 and 14 miles, something like that. For me, that's for me. So my long tempo, I put like right at race pace. And my goal race pace is somewhere under an 8:50 mile if I can. Like that's my number one goal, is under an 8:50 mile time, because that will get me to a marathon PR. This is my 7th marathon, and I've only run one marathon under 4 hours. So my B goal, the 8:50, would take me right around like 3 hours and 50 minutes. My B goal would be to get my second marathon under 4 hours, which is roughly like your low 9:0 something pace. I'm capable of that. It's just a matter of if I put together a good race strategy, which I'll kind of dive into here. But again, it's like there's only so much strategy you can talk in terms of, okay, I'm trying to hold a 9-minute mile. Like, what's mile 1 through 5, right? Like, and I'm not going to dive into that necessarily, but I do have some, not really areas of concern, but just specific areas of the course that I'll be more interested in, like, paying close attention to my effort. So, anyways, some great tempo sessions. I recently had a tempo session that was either 13 or 14 miles, right at my race pace. I was working hard, but it was on a treadmill because, again, if you follow me, you know that the majority of my stuff, now this is changing because the weather's changing, but the majority of my stuff during the school year, and again, this is also changing because I'm almost out of school now, but the majority of my training is like in the dark on a treadmill or on my bike inside, right? So like before my day starts. But anyways, so I hit like a 13 or 14 mile tempo right at race pace, working hard, felt really consistent and steady, knew I could do it the whole time. So I was pleased with that. A couple miles on the front, on the back end, you're totaling 16, 17 mile sessions. Nothing mind blowing. I've had some other smaller tempo sessions, like 8 or 9 miles, and I'm hitting slightly faster than my planned race pace, so like 8:20 or 8:30, and I've executed those well. And those couple sessions, those handful of sessions. Now, I say handful because, listen, I've only started putting speed back into my training like 3 weeks ago. It's not like I can do this 5 days a week where I'm like scrolling through my workout logs and I'm trying to pick my best session from the recent 15. No. I've had like 4 or 5 tempo sessions since Rabid Raccoon finished because I was being very careful and cautious about adding speed and tempo work back into training. If you do that too quickly, you're very susceptible to an injury. Your body needs the time to recover. The cardiovascular system, your muscular system, your skeletal system, the connective tissue. You add in speed before your body's ready, that's how you snap a ligament. I'm not trying to do that, so I was very cautious, made sure I could handle some moderate tempos, or moderate pacing, I should say, and then I was cautiously adding in some tempo work, speed work, moderate tempos, longer tempos at race pace, and I feel pretty good. I don't feel great, but I do feel pretty good. And I feel fairly confident that I can go under 4 hours. I feel less confident about PRing the marathon because the marathon it's a hard marathon. Pittsburgh's a hilly marathon. So do I think I can PR necessarily? I do think I can, but I don't really expect it, but I do expect to go under 4 hours. So hopefully hearing that makes sense. My number one goal is to PR. My backup goal will be to go under 4 hours and have my second full marathon under 4 hours under my belt heading into the rest of this season. And then I'll dive back into Pittsburgh, the race itself. But the rest of this season, in about 6 or 7 weeks, I have a half Ironman in State College, PA, and then about 6 or 7 weeks after that, I have a half Ironman in Sandusky, Ohio. And then the end of the year in the fall, I'll be running one more marathon in Akron, Ohio, and that's the course that I PR'd. It's a little bit flatter, a lot of it flatter than Pittsburgh. So I'll reassess the fitness at that point, but would love to attack another PR at that race later this season. But 3 weeks from now, I'm having another baby, so this could all completely change. So this might be the last, hopefully not, this might be the last race preview and race recap you're going to get, but I do anticipate being able to execute all those races, or at least toe the start line, but whether or not there will be any PRs this year, I'm not sure, because sleep is kind of important, and I'll be getting very little in about a month. So anyways, back to the Pittsburgh course. This course is a ton of fun. This is a very high-energy marathon. There are people everywhere, all over this course. It's awesome. I love it. So I'm very, very excited about that. There's a tendency at the start of this race to just be running way too fast. Way too fast. Now, that happens with every single race. If you want to go into triathlon, it happens in triathlon too. You start swimming way too hard, and you're like, wait a minute, I have another mile that I need to swim. You have to pull it back and kind of calibrate quickly. This race, because it's so crowded, everyone is so jittery, excited. Maybe there's some less experienced people, whatever, right? Because not everybody runs multiple marathons. Some people, I'd say most people probably toe the line and, one time and call it. But so for that reason, people are overly excited. Maybe they don't know how to pace, whatever. People start way too fast, and it's so easy at this race to just get sucked into that, and then before you know it, you're 5 miles in and you're a minute faster than you had planned, and now you have a serious conversation you have to have with yourself, can I actually hold on to this for a while, or did I just make a horrible mistake, right? So last year, I made not a horrible, but I did make a mistake. I was trying to PR, which again, 8:52 per mile is my PR pace. And I ran the first 14 miles at 8:20, 8:25, and I was feeling good at the half marathon. So I'm like, why not? Let's keep going. And then before you know it, I went up a hill way too fast. I didn't calibrate my effort, and then went up another hill at 18-ish, and I realized quickly that I would be struggling to break 4 hours, and then I didn't even break 4 hours. I was 4:01 or 4:02 or something, when in reality, I probably could have gone 3:55 or something and been under 4 hours, but because I was chasing the unicorn of the day, thinking I could go ridiculously fast and feeling good early in the race, that was the mistake I made that I paid for later. So I'm definitely planning to calibrate my effort this year compared to last. I'm more fit this year, and I still am not going to come out as fast as I did last year, because again, I came out too fast and felt good. So I'm going to feel good and pull my effort back to, high 8s or low 9s for probably 10 miles or so. And I say that because around 11 or 12, where the half marathon breaks away from the marathon, is the longest and biggest hill. And again, that's early enough in the race, relatively speaking, for a full marathon, that if you feel good, you're just I'm just going to rip up this hill. I'm just going to pursue this hill, right? Hill pursuit. Let's go. I'm going to take it. But you can't do that. You can't do that if you're running a marathon. So at least for me, I can't do that. I can't be feeling so good at a pace that's faster than my goal finishing pace and then like sprint up a hill. Now, there are people who do this. Maybe they make the same mistake as well. But what I plan to do is calibrate my effort and just be okay with slowing my overall pace down over the course of that first hill stretch, like 11 to 12-ish. So if I come into that hill averaging 850 pace, I will be okay if my overall pace drops by 5 to 8 seconds or something like that. And I will not push myself up that hill. I will slow down, control my heart rate. I'll operate at like a 6 to 7 out of 10 RPE, and I will be okay with that. And I've already committed to that mentally. I am not going to be overdoing that first hill. Now, the next hill comes around 15 or 16, and at that point, after that first hill, I'm going to start calibrating my effort based on how I'm feeling. And if I can slightly negative split after the first hill, I'd hope to get my overall pace back down to the low 850s. And at 15 to 18, same kind of deal. Be okay with my pace, overall pace, dropping a little bit back up to the high 850s, maybe around 9. And be okay with that, because at that point, I still have 10 miles to go, and there's one more kind of chippy hill around 19, 20, somewhere in there, 21. And at that point, I'll be honest, so after the hill at 15, 16, I'll start negative splitting again. I'll recover from the hill first, start negative splitting again, pulling my pace down, get to that last hill, and I'm going to take it. I'm not going to calibrate my effort. Because at that point, I only have about a 10K to go. So I'm going to take the last hill. It's short, and I'm not going to – there will be no walking, by the way, okay? But it's a short hill. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to continue the negative split for the last 10K, hopefully dropping my overall pace close to 850, and perhaps in the last 5K, 2 miles or so, bring it in a little bit more, and I would love a PR. And again, this is perfect scenario. Now, this is an improved race strategy from last year. Last year, I thought I had 340 in me. But because I thought I had 340, I missed out on 355, right? So I ran 401 and change. So, this is an improved race strategy, but also paired with what I feel is improved fitness. So I think if I'm smart, I can execute this race significantly better than I did last year. Again, I'm going to come out about 30 seconds per mile slower than last year, even though I'm fitter than last year and more capable than last year. And I hope that will pay off on the second hill. And then the third hill, when I take that third hill and try to negative split the last 10K to bring my overall pace down to a PR marathon pace, which, again, it's a hilly course, so a PR, my world's not going to end if I don't PR my overall marathon. I don't necessarily expect it, like I said. But I do expect sub 4, so if that means I'm negative splitting to get back under 4 hours, then that'll happen. And then I'll recalibrate later in the season, and I'll attack a PR later. But I mean, I'm not saying that like I'm throwing in the towel on the PR tomorrow. I definitely want it, and I think with a smart strategy I can do it. But again, is it expected at this course? No, but I do expect a PR on the course. My course PR is 4:01, so I do expect under 4 hours tomorrow. So. That's essentially my race strategy. I am approaching the city of Yinzers right now, and I'm getting excited. The weather has been all over the place. Like a week ago, like they put out a 10-day forecast or something. So a week ago, it was like a low of 34 and a high of like 48 or something the whole day. So I'm like, oh, great, it's going to be freezing. Which, again, not bad for me. I'm a bigger guy. I produce a lot of heat, so I actually like the cold. But anyway, just to give some context about how it's changed. The next couple days, it went from a low of 34 to like a low of 54. Now, if you're looking at tomorrow, it's a low of like 61 and a high of 74 and like a 50% chance of rain all day. So it's going to be a weird day. Like if the rain is off and on, it's going to be muggy and humid. So I have plenty of salt. I'm drinking salt throughout the day today. I'm taking salt tabs throughout the day today as well. Carbs as well. Last night my wife always just dominates this for me. She makes me a homemade pizza 2 nights out because I like to eat more 2 days out than I do the day before or the night before, just to avoid any GI issues on the morning of. As long as you aren't, again, here's a whole other topic for another podcast. As long as you're not doing anything intense after a carb load, you are going to store that muscle glycogen and be able to use it within, the next 3 days. So if you've carb loaded intelligently and you're not doing anything intense, so walking, maybe a jog, I still wouldn't even really advise it to be honest, but maybe you go for a jog, right? I'm of the mindset that do nothing the day before. If you've done your fueling and you did it right, you can do nothing the day before, not eat as much so you don't feel like overly full, lethargic, heavy, potential GI issues. You just kind of eat regular or a little bit less. You're still going to be holding that muscle glycogen from your carb load. So anyway, that's another podcast, but that's a long way of me saying I ate a lot of food yesterday. I had a pretty decent morning so far. I'm going to get an early lunch. I'll pair that with an early and small dinner, but it'll be carbs still, but I wouldn't consider it like massive plates of pasta at this point. Again, different for everybody, but for me, it'll be a smaller dinner, but it'll still be carb focused. And then wake up early enough that I can feed plenty slow digesting stuff into my system. Salts, electrolytes, carb supplements, all that stuff. Get the caffeine effect tomorrow morning as well. Wake up. Probably won't even need it because I love this race. I'll be so excited. But yeah, that's really it. That's all I have. I am super, super pumped. And I'm excited to also race intelligently and execute a smart race strategy. Things can go wrong. Obviously, I could roll my ankle or fall in the first 100 meters of this race. It can absolutely happen. But aside from something like that happening, I should be going under 4 hours. If I'm not going under 4 hours, then something's off with, maybe just not the day of the week. Maybe I'm not recovered as much as I think or feel that I'm recovered. I do feel pretty well, feel pretty good. There's no reason I should not be under 4 hours, but again, we'll chase the PR tomorrow, and I'm hoping in a day or two I'll be able to come back on the recap episode and share with you that I've PR'd my marathon. I hope that's the case. I really do, because I feel pretty decent. Again, not like in elite fitness or anything, right? But I do feel good for myself, and I'm excited to give this an intelligent approach tomorrow morning, regardless of the weather. The weather sometimes when the weather's bad, it like gets me jacked up, if I'm gonna be honest. So if it's like raining, it starts raining hard and the clouds are coming in, that'll give me some energy. To be honest, I kind of like that stuff. So let the rain come, is my opinion. Anyways, I appreciate you listening. Don't forget, this is episode 99, meaning next episode 100, which will be, I'll just go on and say it right now, it will be the marathon recap, Pittsburgh Marathon recap episode. Make sure you're listening to that episode, because embedded into that episode will be the 100th episode special offer that I'll be offering to current and future Hill Pursuit athletes. Very exciting stuff. I'm excited for the announcement. I think it's going to appeal to a lot of people. There will be limited slots available, so make sure you're listening. If you've listened this far into the show, I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. I'll post tracking info if that interests you for the race tomorrow. I'll just post that to like my social stories. But like, subscribe, follow along on all the socials. All of it is just at Hill Pursuit, and you can find us everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn. The podcast itself streams wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Podbean, Google, Apple, wherever. All right, so like, subscribe, share the show. I really appreciate that. We have a lot of people following along, and that's exciting. So the more people that we can get into the community to benefit from even just one tiny little nugget of information or experience that I'm sharing, if we can make an impact and help people, you're a part of that if you're sharing this episode. I truly mean that. So thanks in advance. I have nothing left for today. I'm just really excited about Pittsburgh. I know I have my tracker right now for the Pittsburgh Marathon. I think I have like 35 people, and I'm probably missing 20. So if you're racing and listening to this, good luck. Genuinely, I wish you nothing but the best. Race smart, race hard, have fun, enjoy yourself, and thanks for listening to the show. This was episode 99 of the Hill Pursuit Podcast. Have a blessed day.